Hello everyone, this is ponderonweather. In this update, we're going to be talking about a major snowstorm with severe weather and much chillier air for the second week of May. So if you're new to the channel, click the subscribe button and the notification bell to get all my daily updates to keep you ahead of the storm. So let's get right to it. Here's the overall watches and warnings map for Sunday, May the 9th. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. I hope you enjoy your special day. We've got some active weather to talk about, guys. There's already winter storm watches for parts of Colorado, and it's been very windy ahead of this stronger cold front. Much of Texas yesterday into Oklahoma, but now that wind has shifted off into portions of up here in the Ohio Valley, into the Tennessee Valley, getting into Kentucky with some high wind advisories later on this afternoon. So as we take you through the surface map, check this out. We actually already have our first tropical depression out here in the Pacific. We talked about this feature for several days now. Look at those cold cloud tops that have formed, and they just introduced this as tropical depression 1E, and it is expected to be a tropical storm, Andres, later on this afternoon. And if it does in fact happen, that will be the earliest ever in the Pacific by one day. The earliest was May the 10th. So that is no threat to land, but you can actually see some of the feed off from this system as it pulls away. It'll help actually feed some of the moisture back into Texas and back into some of the southern states. That will help enhance the rainfall as this cold front comes down later on in the week. So let me walk you through the storm reports from yesterday. It was pretty active in the plains. We had all that system that came through last night into the overnight. And these are just some preliminary numbers, but it was pretty active in Kansas with some hail reports. They had several tornado warnings. It's yet to be determined if they did in fact have a tornado, because it literally was just happening last night. But it was very active, and that will continue pushing off and diving down into the southeast later on this afternoon. Here's the overall surface map, and I actually highlighted the dew point so you can actually see where the kind of the moist air is and where the cold front is. That cold front has moved through Oklahoma City with that dew point dropping, and it's already into the Texas panhandle, and that will be diving down through the Dallas-Fort Worth area, entering Texas with around as severe weather later on this afternoon. As we get into about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock time frame on the 21Z HRRR model, we see some supercell thunderstorms starting to break out. I'm thinking southeast of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and then pushing eastward along into Shreveport, getting into parts of Arkansas, into the Tennessee Valley, going into Kentucky with some very heavy rain and supercell thunderstorms. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center has highlighted, and this is the newest update as of 8 a.m., highlighted a hatched risk. And this is an enhanced risk for severe weather, and a hatched risk implying that these areas could see 2-inch diameter plus hail out of the atmosphere later on this afternoon. So listen up. If you live in Austin, if you live in Shreveport, if you live in Little Rock, Arkansas, if you live in Waco, in Killeen, all these areas are going to be a little bit more susceptible to see that golf ball to baseball type size hail later on this afternoon into the overnight hours. And if you live in down into even into Austin, going all the way up to Jackson into Memphis, Tennessee, you're still going to have that highlighted threat of some quarter-size hail or above. And then even on the outskirts of into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I'm thinking southeast of Dallas, it's not out of the question you could see some larger hail as well, but it's mainly going to be southeast of the Dallas-Fort Worth area. This will push into portions of Nashville, Tennessee, going into all the way into Jackson, Mississippi. So it's going to be a pretty active day, unfortunately, for Mother's Day. And we're also going to have tornadoes to watch about as well. Again, it's going to look like it's going to get active down here southeast of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, going into portions of East Texas, and that'll be extended into Shreveport, Little Rock, especially Arkansas. I think you're going to be under the gun, a little bit more susceptible for that tornado threat later on this afternoon. And that will extend all the way up into portions of Kentucky, especially western Kentucky, are still going to be seeing possibly an isolated threat and all the way down into Austin, it can't be ruled out of seeing a possible tornado later on this afternoon. So as we walk you through, here's the latest radar as about 7 o'clock. So I do feel by 7, that's going to be, those supercell thunderstorms are going to be reaching all the way down to Austin. So you're going to be having a under the gun for that significant large hail. So definitely be prepared if you got late plans, have dinner and stuff. If you're going to be out and about, this could be doing some damage to your car with that golf ball to baseball size type size hail that could be over your area by then, especially into Shreveport, getting into central Mississippi, getting into northern Alabama, going into Tennessee. So those areas are going to be under the gun around 7 o'clock this evening for that threat, and that will continue shifting off southeast as we go in through the nighttime hours. As we wake up Monday and as we go through the day on Monday, I do feel that strong cold front will be cold enough to start having some snow up here in portions of Idaho and Wyoming, especially into Colorado, where they already have that winter storm watch already taking place. It'll start out in the foothills of Colorado, and it will slowly shift into portions of Denver, where I think it's not going to start in Denver until probably into the nighttime hours, say about 9 o'clock. You might see your first snowflake fly in Denver, just kind of a guesstimated guess there. But down into Texas, yeah, we're going to see that overrunning conditions and much cooler air, and some of this could be chilly air. And this is a shallow cold front, guys. This is very shallow air. So there's going to be a strong difference of where this cold front lies, of the difference in temperature is a good 30-degree difference, not too far away, because this is some shallow cold air mass for the second week of May. So as we go through Monday, these are 4 o'clock temperatures on the latest NAM. I do feel like this is the best model to use for shallow cold air. The European can't literally see shallow air. By the time we get into Monday afternoon, yeah, look at that, 59 degrees in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, 60s in Oklahoma City, but just down to the south, I mean, look at that in San Antonio, 88. So yeah, really going to be dependent on where you live in Texas and where that cold front's going to be with that shallow air. But you're going to really feel it where it's going to be underneath you, especially in Arkansas. So once you receive that severe weather today, it's going to be replaced with drier air and much chillier air. And these are afternoon temperatures for May the 10th. I mean, coming up on Monday. So you're definitely going to feel this air mass all the way into the Ohio Valley, get into the Northeast, and it'll be a step down process throughout the week, and some chilly air will just keep draining into the pattern. By the time we wake up on Tuesday morning, May the 11th, that snow is going to still continuing to fly into portions Colorado, into Denver. So I do feel they're going to be picking up several inches at least in Denver, and much higher amounts into the foothills. And there's that tropical depression out here in the Pacific actually help enhancing, along with the cold front here, enhancing this rain threat coming up, into Tuesday for Texas and to Louisiana. And this will be elongating along the south as we get deeper into throughout the week. But there's your afternoon high temperatures, more or less 4 o'clock temperatures coming up on Tuesday. Yeah, look at that, where that snowpack's going to be in the Colorado. You're talking 30s, your 40s in Kansas. Much of the West is going to be warm. Much of Texas, at least northern Texas, are definitely going to be experiencing that 20 degrees below average air mass, dropping all the way down to the southeast, with much of the 50s showing up to the southeast, and even 40s into the northeast. So this is some definitely chilly air for May standards. And as we go through the day on Wednesday, yeah, there's the colder air continue to funnel all the way down a little bit further south now. There's that rain getting pushed a little bit further south. I do feel by then there's not going to be much of a severe threat at all, because there's just too much cold air around, and severe weather does not like cold air. But yeah, they're going to be looking at some very heavy rainfall, unfortunately, helping feed off that tropical depression there, and that cold front of the trough, and that's going to be elongating down here in Louisiana, especially as we get into Mississippi and central Alabama. I do feel like there's a zone there that could pick up easily 5 to 8 inches of rainfall, and that'll just enhance the threat as we go into Georgia, into the parts of the Carolinas, as we go through the day on Wednesday. So look at the temperatures on Wednesday where that cold air is still in place, still funneling down. Much of the west remains warm. We start to modify a little bit with that snow stopping by then in Colorado, but that colder air amount would just continue to shift further off into the southeast and dropping those 50s into the Carolinas now, and then kind of rebounding a little bit for much of the Ohio Valley into the Northeast, but still remaining cold throughout the week. There is Thursday with that same system. We dry out in Texas. We start to dry out and push the rain a little bit further southeast now. So now the rain's going to be more or less in Georgia, getting into the Carolinas. Now it's showing up in Florida by then as we go through the day, and as well as the colder temperatures. So that's going to help keep the afternoon temperatures low, getting into the southeast as we go through the day. On a Thursday afternoon, there's your Friday look. Yeah, it still remains pretty dry in Texas. We start to dry out somewhat in the southeast as we kind of reload, but look to the north. There's some more cold air in Canada trying to show some more snow up here in Canada, as this will be trying to dive southward. But I know I've been getting a lot of questions. Hey guys, when's it going to warm up? When's it going to warm up? It's May. It shouldn't be warmed up by then. So here's the Climate Prediction Center outlook for the next 8 to 14 day time frame. So I showed you through the next week. This starts about the 16th through the 22nd. They feel like the trough's going to be coming in out the west. There's going to be cooler conditions. Then it starts to warm up in the midsection of the country. I'm not really, thinking that's going to be the case just yet, because if we take a look at the overall NJO, which is your Mann and Julia oscillation, I kind of stopped you right here, and you can see where we're at on May the 9th. This is right now. This is phase 2 and phase 3, so you can see what phase 2 and phase 3 looks like. It's a very chillier phase, as what we're going to be experiencing. But as it was going to be swinging off into a little bit more warmer phases 4 and 5, it actually takes a little bit of a loop-de-loop and comes back around into phase 2. This phase 2 is pretty active phase for the tropics, and I think that's one of the reasons why we had that early season development, because of the enhancement in the Indian Ocean. And then it's not out of the question, even some of the longer range models, and this might be another video, but as we go to the middle of the month, there's already some hints with this being in phase 3 still, that we could be spinning up some Central American, gyra type atmosphere in the Caribbean. That's not out of the question. We could be seeing a low pressure trying to spit up on the Atlantic side for some early season development as well. So that's just something I'm actually going to be paying attention to over the next 10 days. But you can definitely see that as we swing across this, for the next 2 weeks, it's predominantly in a more or less cooler phase. So I do feel like we still have a little bit more room to run with some cool down temperatures. But as we get into the 23rd of the month, you can see what phase 5 looks like. We start to moderate. And I do feel by the time we get towards the end of the month, that last week of May, especially as we go towards Memorial Day, it goes into phase 6. And that phase 6 is a very warm phase. And I would say more or less a sudden summer phase as we go through the end of May. So that's just something I'm kind of taking a look at as we go throughout the month of May. Here's the latest European model for the next 7 days. Yeah, it basically verbatim out west with that ridge out west. And then with that colder air, they're going to be stuck in place for much of the central and 2/3 of the country with those below normal anomalies. Here's the European for week 2. Now, week 2, this is going to be they're having a difficult time with the European lately, seeing any type of cold any long ways out. So I'm not buying this just yet, because there's other indications, like I showed you the MJO, thinking this gets delayed. So this is just what the latest European model. Here's the latest GFS model. Not quite as bullish on the warm spell. As we go into week 2, this would be your 16th and 23rd time frame. And then the latest CFS V2 model shows pretty much why I'm thinking it's more or less going to be more moderation, not nearly as cold, but more or less average to a little bit below average as we go into that 16th to 23rd time frame. So that's just something I'm kind of taking a look at for the long duration. Here's the rainfall between now and say the 16th time frame over the next week. You can see it's pretty much predominantly high and dry out in the Pacific Northwest. Can't really buy a drop out west. There's your northwest flow, with a lot of this is going to be flying as snow. And then it really ramps up into Texas. They're taking advantage of that tropical system down here. The further south you live in Texas, the more rainfall you're going to see. And then it elongates along the coast into Louisiana, and it has a kind of a bullseye right here around Mississippi here. We could pick up about 5 to 8 inches of rain. And then we have that secondary trough that comes up to the north here, a pretty good swath of 2 to 4 inches, over the next 7 days as we go throughout the period. And here's your snow. Yeah, your snow is going to be prevalent with that cold air around up here off the Pacific Northwest, especially as we get into Colorado. I do feel we add to those totals in Denver. This elongation here is more or less a dynamic cooling event that we could see happen later on this afternoon, getting into, so that's something, snow, if you live, just like I said, northern Illinois, northern Indiana, northern Pennsylvania, not out of the question. You could be cooking up some very heavy, like wet snowflakes, no accumulations or anything like that, but just a very heavy wet snow is not out of the question with that dynamic cooling aspect that could come into play with that. And if I just extended the view and took you out to the 25th, so more or less added 8 more days of precipitation to see if there's any inclination of this pattern looking like to change in any time soon, and there's really not, guys. It remains pretty much dry out west. Pretty much a lot of the same areas are going to be hit with some of the heavier rainfall for the next 7 days, would just continue to add to those totals, going on to that 3rd week of May. So that's just something I'm taking a look at for the long duration. So I hope this video kind of helped you guys out planning ahead. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely leave your comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel to catch the latest update where I protect you before and after the storm.